library budget cuts are a huge detriment to the neighborhood, to the communities. Libraries are valuable resources, especially in the direction the library is going into. There are more services that we provide. It's not just about books anymore, so they're really losing out on the benefits of the services that they could get at the library.
It depends. Sometimes I usually come, I won't say usually, but sometimes I come for a specific class that I signed up for. And that would be either, well, the Spanish language class is first come, first serve. But they have other classes in advance that you can RSVP online. Or sometimes I just come because I want a quiet place to study. When you're learning a language, it is best to learn it by speaking it. So when you get into conversation, it was conversational class. So you study on your own time, and you come in and you practice what you studied, and the instructor gives you examples and lessons so that you can improve your conversational skills.
I think it's important to keep the money for the library because there's so many different resources for other people that I think they would not be able to, and I don't think they would be very comfortable because the library is kind of the center hub for people to come to, and it's also a lot cheaper too. I know there's support groups and they need to pay people to do those support groups and get your passports, and that's important because going all the way to the post office could be X amount of miles away, and by having it at the library and having all those resources, I think it's more important to keep the funding for the library instead of taking it away.
Um, it was actually a little funny. We received word about the budget cuts or the request that we submit plan for budget cuts on my first day as the
Wow.
new executive vice president and CFO. So I was definitely jumping in with both feet into this role. We haven't gone through a budget reduction process in many years. I'm not sure the libraries would be the first place that I would be looking to achieve savings. The libraries are always available to be a platform for civic engagement and lifetime learning, and the libraries are doing so much more than they've ever been asked to do, and it's not just about the books and the access to technology. It's about creating community spaces for everyone to feel safe and engaged with government and with civil society and with education, and that's so important in a city like New York, and for our continued success as a city. So it doesn't feel that you would, in my opinion, I wouldn't start looking for budget reductions at from an organization like the library, because the library is constantly doing more to engage the community. There's an annual operating budget that we negotiate with the city, and that's where the reduction. That's where we'll feel that reduction in funding if it transpires come July 1st. So every year we receive an annual allocation from the city. In addition to that, the city has something that's called the capital budget, and the capital budget is what the city uses to fund new construction. We also receive an annual capital allocation. That money is not impacted by this budget reduction. So we are moving full steam ahead on all of those new construction projects. Where we are vulnerable is when we are bringing those new libraries online, when we're ready to open them. If we don't receive the operating budget funding for the the staff that is required to operate the new libraries, then we're absolutely going to be operating those new libraries. But where we'll have to look at is staffing throughout the system, all 60 branches, and figure out a way in which to redistribute our finite resources in order to operate those new the new branches that are coming online. So that might sort of, in balancing out, you might have fewer librarians and staff in in certain locations. We might have to reduce some shifts throughout the system in order to absorb that additional need. We certainly will be advocating on our behalf with the city to make sure that we receive the staff that we need in order to operate those additional facilities.
I'm a deputy press secretary for the mayor's office. I've been working in this capacity for about 2 years, but I've been with the administration for 3. I like to think of the budget as being 4 different phases. It starts with the preliminary budget, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is an initial budget that the mayor presents with some core priorities that we're going to be focused on throughout the rest of the fiscal year, so fiscal year 19 into fiscal year 20. And then we follow that up with an executive budget, which we actually just presented in April. And that sort of helps us define a bit more, what our fiscal outlook is in New York City, what some of our other funding priorities are, what some of our other needs are, and we sort of update our preliminary budgets to reflect those needs and those changes within our budget. And then we follow that up with an adopted budget, which is struck in April, and that is a budget between the City Council and the City of New York, our administration, in which we come to a final budget agreement on things that we want to fund jointly, different priorities that strive to create a fair New York City, that funds programs for all of New Yorkers, especially low-income New Yorkers who rely on different programs. We finally finish off the budget process with what we call our November modification. The budget itself is a constantly changing thing because of many different factors, including, there may be an additional need that we identify as we develop the budget or as we work through the year. And we'll reflect those changes in the November modification, and so we will publish documents to reflect those changes in November. So the way we prioritize things is ensuring that New Yorkers are receiving programs that they rely on, especially programs that make New York City fair. So things like pre-K for all and 3K for all, ensuring that parents are able to put their children in early learning educational settings. Our core priorities are, of course, transportation, expediting bus speeds. So anything that really creates a fairer New York City for New Yorkers is a top priority for us. Every time we release a new budget, whether it's the executive or preliminary budget, or even the adopted budget and November modification, we push out publications. This right here is the latest presentation that we presented late last month. The mayor actually turned this into a PowerPoint, and it's available online. But it has a breakdown of all of our priorities that we're funding, critical needs that we're funding that New Yorkers rely on, and a breakdown of why the thought process behind our budget itself. And it gives you a sense of the economic outlook for our city. And so, we do have some visual representation of what our budget entails. We hear folks, and we always take into account the different asks that advocates or council members have, and we assess them throughout the budget process.